Hello and good morning. Welcome to our community action call with the Million Mom Movement. My name is Naiva Flory, and I am joined with my incredible council members, Sherry Packard and Allison Jade, as well as Ashley Morales. And today's topic is about mindful meals, brighter futures, nurturing individuals on the spectrum. And this is a really important topic because we want to help discover how thoughtful meal planning and mindful eating practices can enhance the well-being, focus, and overall quality of life for those on the spectrum. And we know how important this is for those individuals as well as their caregivers. We also have to think about the people that are caring for these individuals and how we are nourishing ourselves as well. So the role of nutrition and plant-based diet for individuals on the spectrum is really important, and nutrition can play a key role in the pivotal overall health and well-being, influencing everything from physical health to mood and cognitive function for individuals on the spectrum. And adopting a balanced diet, particularly a plant-based one, can offer unique benefits. So we're going to dive into some really great information here today. But before we go there, I would love to have somebody read the pledge. So if anybody would like to raise your hand, I'd love to just call out a guest to read our pledge today. So who's feeling brave? Just raise your hand virtually here. Wonderful, Melody. I'm going to ask you to unmute. I'm so happy you're on here. I'm going to have you unmute and I'm going to share my page so you can read it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melody, and this is the Million Mom Movement Pledge. I pledge to defend the health of myself and my family. I pledge to choose organic foods that are minimally processed and free of man-made ingredients. I pledge to read labels and educate myself on all aspects of clean living. I understand that my actions today will positively impact the health and environment of the future generations. I am committed to sharing this movement of many. I am the Million Mom Movement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melody. Before you mute yourself again, would you like to share what this movement means to you or what, the transformation that you've gone through since starting Purium?
The pledge means a lot to me. I've learned a whole bunch more. I thought I knew a lot when I got here because I'd spent 10 years working in an organic food co-op. So, and they give me education every year free. That's part of my contract. But I've learned so much more here, and I read labels. I learned to read labels there, and now I'm really learning to understand what those labels mean here. And it means a lot to me to feed my family the best that I can give them, and have good healthy things for them when they come. So that's all. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melody, for reading the pledge and sharing what it means to you. This pledge is so important to so many of us, and it's really important that we not only read it so that way we can keep reminding ourselves of this mission that we're on, but share that mission far and wide with the people that you love, because we like Melody said, she worked at a health food store, she had lots of education, yet, Purium has still been transformational in her life, and this community has been so supportive to her. So this is what we're here for, is to support everyone on our journey to just learning the next best thing, right? So I am super excited about this topic and just to be able to help more people to understand what it is when somebody is on the spectrum. So the ASD, or autism spectrum disorder, it's not a disorder. It's just somebody that's different from us, right? It encompasses a range of developmental conditions characterized by challenges in social interaction, communication, and repetitive behaviors. The spectrum is broad, meaning that individuals may experience varying degrees of symptoms and challenges. One common area of concern for many on the spectrum is diet, which can affect both physical health and behavior. And let's face it, a lot of our food nowadays is depleted of nutrients. And a lot of the foods that people on the spectrum are craving are the more bland foods, right? The textures and things like that that are pleasant for them. And they're not always the most nutritious foods. And so we want to offer some alternatives and some solutions. And the importance of nutrition is really crucial for everyone, but it can be particularly impactful for individuals with ASD. Many studies suggest that well-balanced diet can lead to improvements in mood, behavior, and even cognitive function for those on the spectrum. Certainly, dietary choices can help mitigate some common issues. And so some of the things that I think are really important to discuss is gut health, right? We talk a lot about gut health here. It's really important. There is a growing body of research linking gut health to neurological function. Many individuals with ASD experience gastrointestinal issues, which can exacerbate behavioral challenges. So a diet rich in plant-based foods such as fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds can promote healthy gut microbiome, potentially alleviating some of these symptoms. And another thing that is that really plagues these people is inflammation, right? So we will also want to focus on anti-inflammatory properties, and a plant-based diet is naturally anti-inflammatory. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Sherry, and she's going to dive in a little bit more on this subject.
Thank you, Naiva. It's funny, I was just looking for a quote that I know I had heard before, and so I was hoping to find it in time, and I didn't find that one. So if I find it, I will post it along with the replay when we post the replay. But I did find this one, and it's a simple Dr. Seuss quote, but it says, "Why fit in when you were born to stand out?" And I want to just emphasize that for a moment, because everything that we're talking about today is not because we're trying to, the goal is not to try to make people with autism more like quote unquote what regular normal, like what even is that? We all have our own limitations. We all have areas that we need to work on, or areas that need some healing and repair, both emotionally, both energetically, both physically as well. And so I just wanted to sort of start with that and just remind people that what we're suggesting here is really just to help your loved one or yourself with autism, just, alleviate some of the harder parts of it, some of the perhaps more challenging parts of it, and really to just ensure that your loved one, the one that you are thinking of during this call, is just thriving with autism, because why not, right? Everybody deserves to thrive. So I just wanted to kind of start with that. Yes, I find it very important to touch on the inflammation aspect when we are talking about autism. I've worked with many families who have children who are autistic, and I also have a friend of mine who her daughter is autistic, and through her early stages of diagnosis and going through all of the first time sort of discovery and learning all of the information, she asked me to be by her side, and so I quite literally walk through those early years with them. And that was when I was still studying myself. So I didn't kind of come from this place of having this knowledge, but I was learning it at the same time. And, inflammation plays a big role here. There are so many studies and more studies coming out every single day linking inflammation, specifically inflammation in the brain, with autism. Okay, so this is why so many people in the natural health fields will recommend anti-inflammatory diets. They'll also recommend a lot of healthy fats for the brain. What's very interesting is that the specific biomarker that's usually elevated in people with autism is the C-reactive protein, which is the main biomarker to show how much inflammation is within the body. And the fact that that's usually elevated points to exactly that, inflammation in the body. And I just want to kind of preface with our Biomedic, which specifically has been shown in studies to reduce the C-reactive protein biomarkers by at least 74 to 75% in just 6 weeks. So right off the bat, we understand that Biomedic is for the gut. It helps to repair the gut, detoxify the gut, and nourish it moving forward. And isn't that interesting that there, that is what reduces C-reactive protein, which is the biomarker that's seen elevated in people with autism, right? So that, again, it shows you the brain-gut connection is so strong, and we need to look at it together, not separately. In terms of healthy fats, often when I meet with families who have already been doing some natural protocols, they've often been recommended fish oil, and I caution to move away from fish oil and go to more plant-based healthy fats. There's several reasons for that. Often fish oil is very filtered, very watered down, so the potency is not there. You also want to be concerned about heavy metals from fish coming from the ocean, right? And heavy metals is something that we want to be reducing in autism, not adding in more. So I would recommend more olive oil and coconut oil, nuts, and seeds, avocados, nut butters, those types of more nourishing, healthy fats are going to help with the brain, with brain development. And in terms of the inflammation, and anti-inflammatory diet, like Naiva had touched on briefly, is really the way to go in terms of looking at your overall diet. That's a lot of plants, right? It's eliminating things that we know are extremely inflammatory on the body, like dairy, like meat. And we want to incorporate so much more and tip the scale so much more in favor of the more alkalizing foods, plants being the number one best option for that. I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything out. Okay, we are going to go into a list of what we recommend in terms of our superfoods, but I just want to highlight chlorella for a moment. Chlorella is so important because it helps. We know that it acts as a chelator in the body, and it helps to bind to heavy metals and safely remove them. And we know that chlorella is safe in children. How you go about giving chlorella to your kids will depend. I know that when we are dealing with autism, often they can be very, very choosy on foods. It's textures, it's colors, it's how it tastes. That can be a little tricky. But luckily with Purium, we have many options for our chlorella, which we'll get into later. But I find that one of the best places to start with a protocol for autism is with Epigenius family, because it's a good chocolatey flavor. The Epigenius family has both the Biomedic in it and it has chlorella in it. So, you're not having to add in a bunch of things at one time, which can be very overwhelming, especially in a case like this. It's the one shake, which is doing so much good right off the bat. So it's just a little recommendation there. I just want to shift over before I hand it over to Allison. I just want to talk a little bit about, okay, why is there inflammation, right? There can be many reasons for that. One of them, yes, is some of the studies found that in children who are diagnosed with autism, that oftentimes the mother has high levels of inflammation as well. Now, I want to say, I just want to put in there that I remember for my son, who doesn't have autism, he has type 1 diabetes, but I draw the parallel for a moment because I remember learning, where my son's concerned, that his gut microbiome was my gut microbiome. I passed my gut microbiome over to him. And I know that that put him at more of a vulnerability. And I had a really hard time digesting that when I first learned it, even though I was already a health coach, even though I already had the basis. It was very hard for me as a mother, and I felt a lot of guilt, and I took on a lot of that blame. But we are not to blame. Okay, no one individual is to blame for any type of health issue or challenge ever. Okay, the culprit here is the ridiculous amount of toxins that we are being exposed to on a daily basis. And so many of them, no matter how, quote unquote, good you are or what expert level you're at trying to avoid them all within your home, the minute you step out your door, you are bombarded by so many toxins. And so it's not about putting blame anywhere. It's about really gaining the information, because knowledge is power. And when you have that knowledge, then you can go out and you can do something about it. It empowers you. It actually empowers you. And it took me a little while to see it that way, but it's actually empowering, because now you know that you're armed with something that you can actually do something about. And it's not too late. It's never too late. Even after a diagnosis is made, there's so much that you can do while you're following any type of protocol, no matter what you choose to do in terms of, helping your child with autism, or if you are on the spectrum yourself and you've been dealing with this for years and you have your protocols in place. Everybody can gain so much by looking at their nutrition and by focusing on their gut repair. And that can help anybody and everybody thrive. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to pass over to you, Allison.
Thank you so much, Sherry and Naiva. I love everything you prefaced it with as well, that we're not like there. This whole community is all about acceptance of all the different unique people in this world and how we can all belong somewhere. And what I want to bring in, because you know, we're all touched by autism in some way, shape, or form, but I'm not directly touched by it. My uncle actually, who's one of my best friends, he was the first person I ever knew who's Asperger's. He's on the spectrum, and he was not diagnosed as a kid. He was only diagnosed later in life. He was bullied and called lazy and all these names, and went through horrible things growing up. And so it's really important that we have, systems of awareness and community and support. And what I, okay, so my pathway actually, before I got into Purium, I wanted to always help people because I had learning disabilities myself. And it was never handled in the way that, was right. I was in therapy my whole life, actually. I always wanted to be able to be the person I needed when I was younger. And I felt very misunderstood, and that there was no place for me. Like, that was, I was always having to change who I am to fit into the box. And I really wanted to work with children on the spectrum, all spectrums, right? When it comes to learning disabilities or autism. Um, and because my uncle's my best friend, I just get along so well, I guess, with people who are wired differently. That's just who I am. Like, I find more comfort in people who think outside the box or who don't think like everyone. And so it's really easy for me to relate with people who are just wired differently in different ways, right? So I went in thinking that I was going to be doing that. I went in to study how to work with autistic children, and it led me into a program called ABA. And I will just say I dropped out of that program after my first stage because it was so not in alignment with what I was going into this for, which is to support, enrich, like nurture, love, hold space and like acceptance for kids who are like this. This system was all about training kids how to fit into the standard. And that broke my heart. I couldn't work in that way. And I felt really bad actually for everyone involved. I felt bad for parents, kind of like, thinking that's the only option. When I was younger in the 90s, I guess I was the first person I knew who was prescribed Ritalin. And I wish my parents had other options. I wish that they knew that there was lifestyle and diet and community support that we could be accessing. So this for me, it changed my functionability as someone who's, operating on the spectrum of, in some way, like I'm operating with a learning disability. I was able to be so much more functional. And another thing it did was it gave me a place to belong. And I can't underestimate that enough. So what I really, really, truly know, the value, what Sherry was sharing about the food is so important. And I love, 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 if you guys follow me, I have a page called Kind Human Kitchen, which I love making comfort foods, but healthy. And so, we could all be doing little swaps when even it comes to like the comfort foods, like even like the mac and cheese and the ramen, I'm saying they have organic versions. There's better versions. Okay. So we could all be also like making swaps that aren't so extreme, that we could still be providing, comfort food. What I used to do for my daughter, who is so picky, she loved ramen noodles. And of course, when I woke up to glyphosate, I stopped buying the commercial ramen, and I would, spend a little extra to get the $1 ramen instead of the 25-cent ramen. And what I started to do was open up Biomedic and put it into her ramen soups, which is flawless. Like, you don't even notice it. And my daughter, who is so, so picky, it doesn't even really change the color when you have like the brown one, because the Biomedic will just make it a little browner. So if there's foods, like if there's already something that your kid loves, you can just add things in. With everything that Sherry has listed about the foods, there's always a way that, especially with the support of this community, that we can find a way to incorporate some of these foods. And I will tell you, it's not overnight that kids will sometimes take on these foods. So please hold patience when it comes to our children and making transitions. Don't give up, because it took us a while. Like I said, I started with just swapping out, or like the junk food they were eating for the organic versions. which we still do time to time. But, it wasn't overnight that she started liking the Epigenia shake. She was pretty resistant to it at first. And kids, that's normal. Anything new, it's normal. So please have patience. We held that space for our daughter where, as leaders of the household, we consumed it ourselves. We stayed steady and we spoke lovingly about this food. It was never like you have to eat it. It's never like a punishment or a chore. It was always with, if they didn't want it, that's fine. More for me. Yay. Like it's all about positive reinforcement. And then, we just positively reinforced my daughter who now drinks her own shake she makes every day. It's really changed her like behavior, her focus and all of it. So I see the difference in my children. It took a few years to get them there to, kind of like taking that just making like having it be their own and not something that they have to do, but we can always work together to help that. And yeah, I just really, I think I look forward to hearing some stories because I've seen some stories myself in this community. I've witnessed them of people who, like Sherry said, we're not trying to get anyone to be fit in a box, but people all deserve to thrive. And so to get someone like, I don't know if I have my dear friend Pamela on this call and Chantel, we have some amazing, friends who've been diagnosed on the spectrum and who can share maybe, or if please raise your hand. We would love to, start hearing some stories of people who have their own personal journey with it because, we're all different, but if we can hear a voice that resonates with us, it can inspire or give someone else hope. So, yeah, that's all from me. Back to you, Naeva. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Allison. And yeah, it's just so important. Nutrition plays such a key role in finding creative ways to get this biomedic into our children, whether it's with the Epigenius family or whether it's having the biomedic and adding it into their favorite foods, like Allison mentioned, putting it into their organic ramen noodles or putting it, I did try it on mac and cheese once. My kids weren't fond of that because it did change the color to more of a brown color. And they're like, what do you do to my mac and cheese? So you have to be creative and find where it can be kind of hidden. So it can hide well in smoothies, like in the broth of a ramen noodle or other soups, anything like maybe a gravy, things like that, that maybe already have the color. So it doesn't change the color too much, I think is ideal too, because I know that the kids right away will notice if it looks different, right? So it's just really being creative and finding the different ways that you can add these things in. And we're going to also share some other Purium products that you can add in to anybody's, diet that is on the spectrum that can really just help enhance the detoxification process of detoxifying heavy metals and other toxins in the body, as well as glyphosate with the Biomedic. And then really, nourishing their body on a cellular level so that we can all function optimally, right? That's the point. And so another point I'd like to bring up is blood sugar levels. Many individuals on the spectrum struggle with mood swings and behavioral fluctuations. And a diet high in refined sugars and processed foods can lead to unstable blood sugar levels, which contributes to these outbreaks, right? So a plant-based diet, again, rich in whole foods, superfood nutrition, nutrient-dense foods can really help maintain steady blood sugar. And this can also lead to improved mood stability. So this is just something to keep in mind, as if somebody is having a mood swing or having a hard time with their communications, it may be due to the food that they ate earlier in the day and them having, a blood sugar irregulation. And then of course, nutrient density is so important, right? So much of our food nowadays is void of nutrients. So plant-based diets, organic is so important. Rich in essential vitamins, minerals can really help support brain health. Also things that are full of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, B12, magnesium, and zinc. These nutrients play crucial roles in cognitive function and emotional regulation. And you can get all of these things from our superfoods, and I'll be going into that in just a minute. But we just want to really help support and give tools as to what can really help support those on the spectrum or those supporting somebody that is on the spectrum. So well, some of the key things that I would say is start slowly, right? Start by incorporating more fruits and vegetables into the existing meals rather than overhauling an entire diet at once. That can be really hard. So gradually replace meat and dairy with plant-based alternatives and, get creative with it. And I love that Allison mentioned her Kind Human Kitchen Instagram page as a resource if you're looking to transition your meals to healthier options. She's done such a great job at already transitioning, comfort foods that the kids and the family love into healthier options. So you can definitely get some inspiration there. Also, experiment with recipes, right? Just like how Allison did, find recipes that mimic your favorite comfort foods. Um, and then, use the plant-based ingredients. So you'll find a lot of that on her page. For example, like try lentil tacos or cauliflower crust pizzas, or maybe like a chickpea salad, or something that is different but somewhat familiar, right? You can find alternative ingredients to make familiar foods. And then focus on the familiar foods. Introduce plant-based foods that resemble the familiar textures and flavors. So smoothies, for instance, can be a great way to sneak in greens without the strong taste. And I do this even with my kids today. Like I will make smoothies. They love their smoothies, and I'll just add the superfoods into the smoothies, and I never get a fuss that way. And the great thing is that I can also make popsicles with those smoothies, and you can add in all kinds of good stuff to popsicles. And, as long as it's frozen and it tastes good, the kids will never complain about that either. So those are a couple great ways that you can introduce, Biomedic in. You could make the Epigenius family popsicles. So that's like a chocolate fudge-sicle with some frozen bananas. There's so many different ways that you can make fun, tasty treats that actually, pack a ton of nutrients as well. Also, staying informed, educate yourself about nutrition, understand which nutrients are essential and how to obtain them from plant sources to empower families to make our informed choices at home of what we're feeding our family, right? What are the foods that we're putting on the table, and what nutrients do they provide for our family? And then, of course, involve the individual. If you're caring for somebody on the spectrum, we know that when we get to be a part of creating the food, especially for children, it can be a lot more rewarding to then consume the food, right? So involve this individual on the spectrum in the process, right? And involve them in the meal planning and the preparation, maybe even shopping for the ingredients and talking about, why these ingredients are important, or why we're choosing them, or why we're even trying something new. Like go to the grocery store and let them choose, some of the things, maybe give them a parameter and be like, so out of this section, what is something that looks good to you, say like in the vegetable or fruit section, like let them choose what feels good to them. And then think about recipes that you might be able to make with that specific food so they feel involved, right? And have them help you make it. This can help them feel more connected to their food choices and more willing to try new things. So that I feel like is really important, is like as we introduce new things, is to help open the door for them so that way they really are open to the opportunity or the option of trying, something different or new. And so I just want to see if I see Chantel is on, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute Chantel so you can share your story. I'm so happy to have you on here. Welcome.
Hey everyone. So I just wanted to quickly share that I'm somebody who's been diagnosed with autism, and I've been on these superfoods and being really careful with my diet for 2 years now, and I've had lots of health success, but specifically for the autism, I'm noticing that I'm not having meltdowns anymore. Um, my focus is better. My mental health is extremely better. Um, I'm having joy in my day every day. I'm enjoying my life. It doesn't feel like such a struggle anymore. And I know that that has a lot to do with the lifestyle changes that I've made and the diet changes that I've made, and then incorporating these superfoods as well and helping my body to get rid of more toxins, because that's a big key part of it. And I just wanted to share that I'm somebody who's dealing with it, and I can tell you for sure that this is a thing.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know that these superfoods have, been super empowering. I've been watching your journey and you seem really empowered, and I'm so happy that you found these superfoods.
Yeah, they're great.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
I just wanted to let people know that somebody who's going through it is vouching for this being a real avenue for success on the spectrum.
Wonderful. Yeah. There's so much support here. And really, the reason that we're doing these presentations is really to just help offer solutions and give people hope. I know how hard it can be when you just don't know what to do, right? And so we want to offer solutions, and we'd love to open it up for more stories. If other people have stories that you'd like to share, we'd love to open it up to you. And before we go into stories, I'm just going to go down our list of the recommended superfoods to help support somebody on the spectrum. And so if you want to write these down, please grab your pen and paper. So we talked about Biomedic and the importance of Biomedic because it helps to remove glyphosate from your gut, and it also helps to reduce the C-reactive protein so that way you are not as inflamed, right? It's an inflammatory marker in the body. And we want to keep the inflammation down because inflammation causes so many issues. As Sherry mentioned, inflammation plays a key role on our overall health. And so Biomedic is not only recommended for people on the spectrum, it's recommended for everybody as we are all inundated with this toxin every day. And in the water, in the air, in the soil, and most of the food at the grocery store. And so it is so important that we remove glyphosate from our gut so that we can have better health overall, and especially on the long term, because we know that so many other ailments also originate from inflammation in general. Inflammation causes a lot of other issues in our body. The next one that I want to highlight is green spectrum. Green spectrum is great because it's a spectrum of greens from land and sea. It's got a ton of minerals and vitamins in it. It's really easy to consume. I personally like the lemon green spectrum. It tastes like lemon iced tea. It's pretty pleasant. And so that one is really great because it has the chlorella in it. It has, spirulina and so many different grasses and greens in it that can really help support the gut microbiome and getting more greens into our body. I know a lot of times from my experience with friends that have children on the spectrum or that are on the spectrum themselves, sometimes it can be harder to get them to eat a salad or greens. Sometimes certain colors are not attractive, or certain textures, such as chewing salads and things like that. And so having it in a green, in a drink option can really be beneficial. And you can add it to smoothies or you can add it to different things if the color is, not pleasant to the individual consuming it, or if you need to mask it somehow. You can also mix it with the carrot juice plus to sweeten it up and change the color a little bit and make it a little creamier. It's really delicious like that. Carrot juice plus is so good for overall health as well. And then apothecary. Apothecary is another one that helps with inflammation. It can really help with natural occurring melatonin. So that way everybody's getting really deep sleep and feeling fully rested. And then we all know that when we have proper sleep, we can really go into the day that much more prepared for what's coming at us. And zinc aid. Zinc aid is great for boosting the immune system. And we know that a lot of times our immune system can be compromised, especially for those on the spectrum. And so it's really important that we boost our immune system. But not only that, zinc aid has zinc and it also has vitamins A, D, and E in it. So it actually, vitamin C as well. And so, you're getting a ton of vitamins in this one supplement, and it's really important for everybody across the board, but especially for people on the spectrum to help boost their immune system, but also making sure that they get all of these vitamins as well. Another one that is recommended is In Focus. In Focus is really great for cognitive health and focusing. So really great for your brain, cognitive function, memory, And focusing. We know that a lot of times people on the spectrum may have a little bit of a hard time focusing, especially if they're going to school and having to sit in a classroom and listen and like be a part of, this bigger group of people and not really having the attention span to fully focus and understand what's being taught to them. So in focus can really just give them a level up of being able to focus a little bit better and being able to, be in that space at that time. So I know that for myself, I've given In Focus to my nephews. My sister uses them often. One of my nephews is on the spectrum with Asperger's, and he's able to use this to help him focus. She especially gives it to him before school and after school when he has homework. So that way he can really just like focus on his work. And she attests to this one product really being super helpful for him. And then ionic elements is really important. It packs a ton of minerals. So you're getting all the minerals really easily, and you can add ionic elements to any drink. So whatever drink that you're having or that you're offering to the person on the spectrum, you can add ionic elements in. When you mix it into juices or smoothies or other things, it doesn't taste too much. Of course, if you take it on its own, it does taste very much like minerals, but mixed into other things, it can be pleasant. So you can also mix it into like a cocoa hydrate drink. Cocoa hydrate is the next one that is really beneficial because it helps with hydration. And hydration is so important. And sometimes it can be hard to drink a lot of water or the proper amount of water throughout the day. But if we put a little bit of cocoa hydrate in it, it can really help consume more water and stay hydrated. And hydration is so important. And of course, Aloe Digest as well. Aloe Digest plays a key role on gut health. So it's a great alternative to the Biomedic if somebody can't take Biomedic because they're celiac or gluten intolerant. They can take Aloe Digest and along with the ionic elements and get kind of a similar detox as with the Biomedic. So it's an alternative to Biomedic. If you didn't know that, for anybody that is celiac or gluten intolerant, they can take ionic element with Aloe Digest and it is phenomenal. The next one is Chlorella. I know we already talked about Chlorella. Chlorella has so many benefits. It's so good in so many ways. It helps to detox heavy metals. It has the cell growth factor, which is so important for people on the spectrum because we all need this extra, this little extra to help our healthy cells grow faster. And so this helps to replicate your healthy cells. And it also helps to detox in, the heavy metals. And it just replenishes your body in so many ways. I can't say enough good things about Chlorella. And I love that Allison also mentioned that the tablets are what her daughters love. My kids love the tablets as well. They chew them up. But of course, we also have it in a powder form where you can mix it into smoothies or other things like that. And then fulvic zeolite helps to bind and pull out heavy metals, really great in combination with the Chlorella and is so beneficial to people on the spectrum. A lot of people are affected by heavy metals, and heavy metals, we come across heavy metals in our everyday life with things that we're doing, and especially, certain people are especially affected by the heavy metals, and it can really disrupt their cognitive function and their behavior and so many other things. And by removing the heavy metals, we can actually help them to have a better quality of life. And then last but not least, we've already kind of talked about Epigenius family, but I just wanted to mention it again because it's one of the easiest all-in-one shakes to give to our children or to anybody in our family. And it has protein, fruits, vegetables, and the proprietary blend of Biomedic in it. So it's really a great one to go to. For just like it has everything in it. It's a chocolate shake, so it's delicious. And if you have a hard time having your consuming that, or the person that you're sharing it with is having a hard time consuming it because of texture, you can create it different ways. So Epigenius family is great with just water, but you can also mix it with a little bit of plant-based milk of your choice to make it just a little bit thicker, or you could also blend some bananas into it, frozen bananas, to make it even thicker, right? And colder too. And sometimes when it's thicker and colder, it can be more pleasant. It can be more like a milkshake, right? Like a chocolate banana milkshake, which is so yummy. And if that still doesn't do the trick, you can put it in popsicle molds, and I guarantee they'll eat the fudgesicles that are made with the frozen bananas and some plant-based milk. So those are the Purium products that are recommended for people on the spectrum. And of course, I also want to mention that if you're caring for somebody on the spectrum, it is so important that you also do something for yourself, right? I know that you pour everything into the person you're caring for, and don't forget about yourself, because if you're not well, you can't take care of this individual as much as you would like to. And so I just want to also enforce that if you are the caregiver of somebody on the spectrum, like, don't forget to get some superfoods for yourself as well. Get on our program. It makes it so simple. Sometimes there might be days where you're overwhelmed and you just need to nourish yourself so that you can have a level head, so you can deal with the situations that are coming at you left and right, and that you can have something so simple at your fingertips. And so that's about as much as I have to share. I want to open it up if anybody else has some stories to share, or if Sherry or Allison would like to come back on and share any additional tips.
I just wanted to jump in on what you just said about self-care. I think that aspect of it is so, so important. And, I've shared a little bit here that, I've gone through some rougher times in my life over the last couple of years. And, if I compare the years that were tough before Purium versus once Purium was already in my life, a huge difference. During stressful times in our lives, our body takes a huge hit, and we underestimate what stress does on the body. We underestimate what challenging times does to the body. We expect, these are times where we tend to neglect ourselves, especially if we're taking care of somebody else on the spectrum or with any type of diagnosis or, challenge in any way. The first place that we usually neglect is our own health, right? It's like later, not as important. I'll do that later. I'll eat something later. I'll take that supplement later. And we all know far too well that later sometimes is not at all. We often lack sleep as well, partly because we're up worrying, but also just because there's, a million things to do. And so regardless of the case, I just wanted to really highlight that the importance of self-care and how incredible these superfoods are for this. I can't stress that enough. That's one of the main reasons why I fell so in love with these superfoods, is because I saw that during challenging times, all I had time for some days, or all even just emotionally and mentally, what I had time for was to mix some superfoods with water, shake and go. And it's incredible to me that before superfoods, I would grab perhaps a coffee because I was running low on energy, or I would grab, I don't know, something that was a lot less healthy than that. And that would be all my body had all day, and how damaging that is, versus now it's a power shake. And a power shake is arguably more nutrition than you can eat in an entire day of eating well. So just, when you look at it that way, it's a no-brainer. Like, the superfoods being added in for everybody in consideration here is a win-win. Allison, did you want to, I think you wanted to say something?
I think Blessa has her hand up, so let's have Blessa mute and please share your story. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Blessa.
Hi, thanks for having me. I like that me and Sherry are matching today. This is good. I was meant to be here. Yeah, I just wanted to share with about a couple brand partners that I've been working with who've been utilizing the products for their children, their young children with autism. One is 5, and then another woman, her son is 3. And these boys are both nonverbal. And so my one friend, she started using the products with her son. I was going to mention she did also a number of other things. She's very diligent in her care of her son. She cut out wheat, she cut out dairy, she cut out meat, she cut out any kind of processed or refined sugars. She's talked to me about before how they were, they would stop at McDonald's or do quick and easy things that felt easy in the moment, but then she was noticing like he wasn't able to go and participate at school. He's just like having a lot more meltdowns and not sleeping at night. That was also another one of her bigger complaints, was still no sleep at night at all, being up, being very restless, and having these, meltdowns that were quite sort of disastrous to their day. And she's also a nursing mother. So she got on the products with him, the power shake, and she just started actually giving it to him first in a syringe. And she just had, like the ones that they use with infants at the hospital. And she would just kind of put the syringe in his mouth and just get him a little bit of power shake, blend up maybe some super aminos in there. And by, it was a really slow process, but by and by now he loves it. And he loves his power shake. And he says he comes to her and is now talking. And this was over the span of a few months. And he's like, Mommy, I want my shake. Give me my shake. And he goes to the kitchen. He gets his In Focus. He loves his tincture. He just loves all of his products. He loves his super aminos. And he's swallowing things, the capsules. He just knows that it's good for him and it's making him feel good. So it was this slow process for them, but she just stayed on it. And then, like I said, was cutting out all of the other things in the meantime. And then I've also really encouraged her, like as a nursing mother, that these are things that she can be putting into her body as well. And now her nursing baby, of course, is reaching for the superfoods too. So when it becomes a whole family affair and everybody, now her husband's getting on a ULT. And so it makes just such a wonderful thing that it's not just about, I think that there can be some issues that arise when it's like all focused on one person, and like, oh, we just need to they're taking all of the medication, or we're doing all of this cooking, or your plate looks different than ours, right? But when it just becomes like a family thing that everybody's doing together, it's really helpful. In my experience with working with these families. So it's been really wonderful to hear their transformation stories and to hear that this woman with her nonverbal son, he came up to her about a month ago and said, "I love you, Mommy." And that was huge for her to have him start talking. She swears by the crack cell Chlorella. And and also she's giving him ionic elements. She has a huge list. Like, she's very devout in the products that she's giving, and she had done all of her research. That's how she found us. That's how she found Purium, was by doing all of this research on what would be best for autism. So yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming and sharing that story. It's so inspiring to know, firsthand stories like that, of how it's actually impacting people's lives, right? And how we have so many solutions here at Purium, and by implementing them and just being so patient. I love that you also shared like how she started him off, really slowly with like, he didn't like it at first. She had to give it to him in a syringe, and slowly over time he started to like it, and things started to shift, right? Things started to shift in him. He started to be more playful and more like active. His brain was waking up in a different way. And pretty soon he was able to start, forming sentences, not just words, but sentences to his mom. And that is so beautiful and so exciting and so inspiring to those that are looking for support. Thanks for sharing that. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know there was a couple other people that wanted to share on here. If you want to raise your hand, I can go ahead and unmute you. Otherwise, we're going to start wrapping up this call, but we've had some incredible shares on here. And every third Friday of the month is going to be focused on the subject of supporting people on the spectrum. And so if you know people that need this type of support, please share our replays with them. Please invite them to our future presentations, because we have so many incredible presentations and even past replays that you can tune into. And so, Sherry, is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up?
Well, I just wanted to say that we've been talking about how we're making a couple of changes, Million Mom, slow changes, but I think really amazing ones. A little bit of a facelift, I guess you could say, but of course a superfood one. But one of the things that we're going to be adding is at the end of our calls, we're going to try whenever possible, to leave the last 15 minutes or so for shares exactly like this, organic shares, that weren't necessarily planned ahead of time or asked ahead of time. It's also going to be a time for questions. So I love how sometimes people are asking questions in the chat, but we realize that we can't always get to them while we're presenting or sharing our screens, etc. And so that the 15 minutes is really going to be to hear, shares from inspirational shares from our community, also to answer a couple of questions. So in terms of if anyone else wanted to share a story today, or if you had any questions that you wanted to ask based on the information that you heard here today, then that's the time to do it. I see we have Deborah who has her hand raised. Deborah, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hey there. How young can you give a child Revive It All? Like 12 or something? I heard Dave maybe said 10 or 12. Does anybody know?
Neva, do you have the specifics on what David said?
I don't have the information readily, right in front of me. I think there's probably more information on the page, the Revive It All information page on the website. But I would say that 12 is like a kind of a normal age. People start taking more like adult doses or, those types of things. And that would just be from the top of my head. But
Yeah. Sorry.
I would go ahead and look at the website as well and refer to the information there.
Yeah, I would say that would have been my answer as well. I started giving it to my older son last year when he was 13. And so I'd say that's a good age.
Thanks for that question, Deborah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions or a story you'd like to share?
Well, we have a question here in the chat. I'm a bit confused on the difference between Chlorella, zeolite, and Biomedic. Okay, so Biomedic is really our focus in terms of gut repair. Okay, so Biomedic is doing a couple of things when taken on a regular basis. It is first detoxifying the gut, mainly. The biggest one that we want to be helping our bodies detoxify from the gut is glyphosate, but it's not only glyphosate that accumulates in the gut, especially with more damage to the gut, more toxins accumulate there. Okay, so Biomedic helps to detoxify the gut, then it actually helps the body. So Biomedic itself does not repair the gut, but Biomedic provides the body with what it needs in order to start to repair, because the body is regenerating, right? Self-regenerating, as long as it's not completely bogged down with toxins. And so it helps the microvilli of the gut microbiome, which is sort of like the filtering system. You can think of it as like little grass blades. Those get heavily damaged when we have too many toxins in our body. And so Biomedic actually helps the body, the gut microbiome, to regrow the microvilli. And then it helps to protect the gut moving forward. It nourishes the gut and it protects it moving forward. So, when we're out at a restaurant, let's say, and you're eating foods, you don't know how they're being prepared, you don't know if there's glyphosate. Even if you're eating really well at home, unfortunately, you can't always know for sure if what you are eating contains glyphosate. We also know we're exposed to glyphosate in many other ways. And so it's just a really good overall protection for your gut and maintenance on a day-to-day basis. Whereas the Chlorella is a chelator. But it binds specifically with heavy metals. Okay, so heavy metals in the butt, there's a lot of heavy metals. We're exposed to those very easily as well. Unfortunately, fruits, vegetables, a lot of powders too. If you're buying powders outside of our superfood ones, a lot of people, have protein powders, even unfortunately like spirulina, that's such a superfood, outside of Purium, unfortunately contains high levels of heavy metals, teas, herbs, all of these things. And so you want to be detoxifying those from the body, and Chlorella is your best way to do that. It really helps to bind to them and removes them. And it's so safe, such a safe way to do it. That's why it's great for kids as well. And then the zeolite sort of acts the same way, right? So it's another way that it binds to impurities within the body and it helps to safely remove them. So the Chlorella and the zeolite, I would say, are more similar, but yet are still varied enough that it's good to take both. But there are two options. Let's say someone doesn't want to take the tablets of Chlorella or can't find a way to take Chlorella that someone likes, well, then the liquid and the zeolite might be the better option for you. You can play around with them, but they each do unique things in the body.
Thank you so much for answering that. Appreciate it. And I saw that Deborah, you had your hand up. Did you still want to share or ask a question? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and, oh,
I put my hand down. Sorry about that.
oh, you're totally fine. Totally fine. So here is our schedule for our monthly flow with the Million Mom Movement. Please take a screenshot so you know what we're doing every month and so that you know how to invite people to the presentations that we're going to be having. So every first Friday, we're going to be talking about either fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, or menopause, basically women's health, first Friday of the month. Second Friday is going to be self-care tips for busy moms, especially around creating financial freedom and our business opportunity. Our third Friday is going to be focused around autism, ADHD, behavioral disorders. And then our fourth Friday is going to be how to raise healthy children and just some really fun tips. So we are going to be talking next week. Sherry's going to lead us on a call all about healthy Halloween. And then the fifth Friday of the month, which happens just a few times during the year, November, we have 5 Fridays. We'll have a special presentation on the fifth Friday of the month where we will have either Dave or Amy or one of the top income earners come and share some tips and tricks with us. So that will be a special presentation every month, and it will vary depending on who our guests are. So I just wanted you all to know our flow for the month and what we're doing, so that way you can tune in, and also so you can promote it to your community and let them know what our focuses are going to be. And then also, I want to just go ahead and invite you all to like, share, and follow on our social media pages, right? This is something that we always encourage you to do. Please go like our Facebook page if you haven't already. On the Facebook page, you'll also see that we have our events posted, so you can go ahead and join the event that we have next Friday with Sherry, all about healthy Halloween. And then you can invite others to that event as well. You can share it in your stories, share it on your wall, whatever you want to do with it. But let's really pack these calls up and get people on board, share this information far and wide. We also have a Facebook group that you're invited to join. That's where we post the replay of this call here today, as well as links that we share on these calls. So if you share any links, then they also get posted there. Also follow us on Instagram, tag us in your post, your stories. I really appreciate it. I can find your posts and reshare them. And then subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find nearly 300 replays. We have lots of replays that are focused around this topic of autism and people on the spectrum. We also have lots of replays from past presentations about Halloween and all of the topics that we've covered over the years with Halloween. And so I'm going to go ahead and drop a couple links in the comments here. You can grab them. And I will also post these links with the replay. So there's actually 2 links posted there. You can hopefully copy them. If not, I will be posting them into Million Mom Movement Official with this replay. I will post these other links to past replays on the subject in the comments, so that way you can go and watch past replays, share them with people that you need to share them with, and whatever else you'd like to do with those replays. So without further ado, have a beautiful weekend. Please join us next week, and thank you so much for being here today.